this thing is about when worlds collide, and a lot of what has shaped Brixton has been the worlds that have been colliding here. But recently, those worlds aren't colliding so much. In fact, some may say there's two parallel worlds that now exist in Brixton. And it's something that I'm not particularly thrilled with. But to get a grip of how Brixton came about, I mean, Brixton has always been a place where people have washed up into. In the 1880s, 1890s, it was a massive shopping excursion. People would come down. There was one of the first custom-built department stores in the world was in Brixton. There's Electric Avenue, which is famous for its street lighting. And the thing that really kind of identified a lot of Brixton, there was two big theatres in Brixton. One was the Brixton Theatre, which now stands, well, where it was next to where the Ritzy is. That got flattened in the war. The second was the Empress Theatre, which is sadly now gone as well. Both theatres had would hold over 2,000 people. So Brixton was a place, much like today, actually. People would come in, they'd get drunk, they'd be entertained, they'd shop. Some things haven't changed, but there have been fundamental changes to Brixton. One of the big changes, I mean, what happened when all the actors moved in, the big apartments, the big houses that were built in Victorian times got split up into little rooms and little flats and apartments. Then what happened in the 40s, we had the Windrush generation coming, 40s and 50s, and there were various development plans that were going through for Brixton. For many years, there was all these various schemes that came and went, and as a result, a lot of the landowners and the property owners decided they'd rather let their property just rot away because they knew at some point there'd be some juicy compensation coming their way. So what happened, Brixton was left with a lot of really run-down housing stock. At this point, a lot of the places were left empty. So this is where a lot of the squatters moved in. Brixton in the 1970s was a very radicalised place. Atlantic Road and Relton Road in the early 70s was home to the South London gay community. It was home to the Black Panthers. There were Olive Morris, the housing activist, was there. There was anarchists, squatters. It was a real hodgepodge of politics. This is the 70s, not exactly renowned for its tolerance, but there they were living cheek by jowl. Another thing that kind of helped shape Brixton was in the 70s, this incredibly insane plan was hatched. The plan was to flatten all of Brixton and build an elevated motorway, much like the Westway, put it right across central Brixton. It would have been, both sides of Cold Harbour Lane would have been completely flattened. There was going to be 7 50-storey blocks either side. It was just a nightmare from hell. The block I live in, which is just here, it's the back there. People mistake it for a prison. It's known as the Barrier Block. It's actually Southwick House. People often say, well, that block, is it a prison? Because it's got small windows. And the reason it has small windows is because it overlooks what would have been the motorway. One of the great myths, and people still tell me this, is that it was built the wrong way around, and the architect, upon discovering this massive block was built the wrong way around, promptly committed suicide. It's a particularly crazy scene, but people still repeat this. And only last week, someone said to me, oh, you live in that block, the one where the woman committed suicide. 3 months ago, somebody did a student did a film about the block, and all the residents were invited to take a look. At the end of the film showing, someone just said, made the very same point, I hear the woman committed suicide. A little voice at the back said, I'm still alive. So she's still with us. But going back to Brixton's heritage, it's something that very much defined Brixton. So you had, in the 70s, people from, gay guys and gay women, lesbians were coming to Brixton because it's a place they found they could find a home. They fitted in because it's where the weird people went. It's where the strange people went. There's a great expression, actually, from the 1930s, which apparently is true. People would ask, are you married or do you live in Brixton? That's the radical Brixton we had. And it's something that I came into. We obviously had the 2 riots, which also helped define Brixton. The thing we always have, if you've lived in Brixton, people would say, oh, you live in Brixton. Ooh, but then if you lived in Brixton, you'd be like, I live in Brixton. Yes. So there's been this thing where up until recently, Brixton's had 2 different meanings to different people. But there's been changes, and some of the changes have perhaps been forced a bit much. One of the ones we've got at the moment is there's a thing called Brixton Village. It used to be called Granville Arcade. It was built in the 30s. Various plans have come and gone from it. It's now known, it's now the Village, as we call it, because it's reached such a point I can't even walk through it anymore. But Granville Arcade, as was, in the 2000s, this developer had this mad idea. He wanted to basically turn it into a shopping mall and stick a great big residential private block on top. And there was a comical moment where people were invited to come in and into the village, where they'd set up a little stall and give their opinions of what they think of this new development. and I actually began to feel sorry for the boat. There was just a queue of people going, "It's crap! It's crap!" It was awful. But what saved the block the thing being built was they got the whole arcades listed, and it was listed by virtue of its Afro-Caribbean heritage. So it wasn't listed because of its architecture, it was its heritage. And to be honest, if you go there on a Friday night, you'd be hard-pressed to find anything of that. It's kind of very middle class, it's posh little restaurants, it's posh little pop-ups. It's a whole different world, and it's something that a lot of old-time residents, I'm not against change, Brixton's always been about change, but now it feels like an exclusive change. It feels that it's a party that some of us aren't invited to. And one of the ones that perhaps was I found the most offensive, around about the same time, this place opened up called Champagne and Fromage in the village. And it was just a bit much, but at the same time this happened, a soup kitchen opened up in my block right there. Actually, the guy that runs it, Solomon Smith, is here. He's a fantastic guy. But to me, it just seemed too much. We had a champagne bar opening up and a soup kitchen. And this is the 12th most deprived ward in London. Although people see the village, people talk about the village, they talk about the nice places. But the reality is Brixton still has real poverty that isn't advertised. So in kind of response, me and a friend of mine started a new website called Brixton Buzz. And in that, we wanted it primarily to be a listing site, really just to lure people in. So they look at the site and keep coming back. But also, we wanted to get across some of the opinions and some of the things we thought about. And in response to the soup kitchen and the fromage people opening up, we decided to try and do something positive, something that may make some kind of positive change. So we came up with the idea of launching a range of beers, because we figure the best way to raise money is make people happy and get money off them. So there's a local brewery called London Beer Lab, and we got involved with them. So the way it works is quite simple. They brew the beer for us. We can't sell it directly, because by doing so, it would actually make us bootleggers. So they sell it directly to the bar. The bar then sells it. Then all the profit the bar makes, they give to us, and we give it straight to the soup kitchen. The first batch sold out. We've done 3 batches now. It's sold out. It's done very, very well indeed. So we're now planning a big relaunch for the new year. We're also going to do, the way it's going to work is for the next batch, because we raised about £700 so far, which isn't a great deal, but it's enough to get going, and it's kind of a proof of concept. So next year, we're going to do a big relaunch, and we're also going to give a lot of money, maybe just little amounts. If some woman starts a creche on the estate, we'll give her 50 quid to help her out. I don't even mind she goes to the pub and drinks it all. I don't care. The point is a way of letting people who will never get access to grants get a little thank you. Get a little thank you for being involved. Thank you for doing something. So we're hoping this will do, we'll raise a lot of money. But it does bring me to one thing. I'm going to be a bit of a Captain Buzzkill here, but I've got a slight problem. I didn't want to do this talk. I was very close to not doing it at all, because what's happening in Brixton, this whole worlds collide thing, we've now got a parallel culture. We have a thing where the people moving in are generally far wealthier. They move into their luxury flats. They go to their new cocktail bars. They don't interact. Suddenly there's a parallel world going on here. And to be honest, this is feeling a bit like a parallel world to me. Don't hate me, but what's happening here is no one from my estate, which is the big estate here, they don't even know this is happening. And it's like a party again they're not invited to. And it's something that, it troubles me a little bit, because I'm really passionate about people being involved. And in a way, this doesn't feel like they're involved. No one on my estate even knows this is happening. And in a way, it's a bit like the cocktail bar that's opened opposite. It's bringing the clientele that won't interact with the community. They come, they go, and off they go. So that's my little whinge out the way. The most popular article I've ever written on my website, I wrote it on April Fool's Day. That should be the clue. But I wrote a piece this year, and I said that Brixton, because all the new traders have moved to Brixton, they were unhappy with the image of Brixton. They didn't like the overtones, the riot memories. So Brixton was going to be renamed East Clapham. This piece made national news. Local councillors were besieged by people going, "You cannot rename Brixton." But the very fact this was seen as a possibility should tell you how much Brixton's changed and how much of a battle we've got ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you.